Welcome to the Illini Guys halftime live show. Mike Kegley here with Kedrick Prince. Kedrick, first off, good to see you feeling better. I know people were worried about you, and hopefully you're feeling a little better here.
I am. First, I want to say thank you to all the people that reached out to me on social media and via text, and especially from the Illinois Athletic Department. I was extremely impressed with that, so that means a lot to me. Thank you, Mike.
Yeah, we are so happy to have you feeling better. Now, speaking of feeling better, I'm thinking that Chicago State would be a great opponent for the Illini to play more often.
Well, from a coaching standpoint, you never want to tell your players this is a game, which is what I list this as. It's a game to work on some things and to gain some confidence for some players to do things that you haven't been able to do in a while. And one of them is to get big fella Tomislav going. I mean, he's not. I don't want to say he struggled, but right now, I mean, he's coming out and he looks like a totally different player. Being on the court right now, with his numbers and he's got 18 points, and it's been a while since we've seen that. It's good to see Rez come out. I like the high-low action that they're doing. Javon was the first. Gibbs Longhorn was the first sub off the bench. So just doing some things differently, I guess. I like seeing that. But it is basically a tune-up game to work until they get to go to Oregon and play another big road game on the Big Ten on January 2nd.
Bradley, what are your thoughts after watching this first half of Illinois just basically doing some incredible shooting?
Well, how bad is Chicago State compared to a year ago? A year ago they beat Northwestern at Northwestern and win a game in that CBI or whatever it was they played in. And this year they haven't won a game, and boy, they're brutal. There's very little resistance put up by them defensively. That's why Illinois scored 60. I thought Illinois got a little lackadaisical on D for one stretch there. But overall, yeah, pretty impressive half for Illinois. It's amazing how you look great when you make shots. It's such a simple game, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. I was thinking the same thing, Brad, when I watched Indiana State get beat by Ohio State in the game that delayed the start of this. And I thought to myself, Indiana State had such a good team last year. What a letdown it must be for the fans to watch their coach and many of their good players have an exodus to other teams.
Yeah, no question. It's hard. That's college basketball today, though, right? I think it was somebody said this the other day. You don't recruit. It's not a program anymore. It's a team every year because you have new guys every year, it seems like.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah. And now one of those teams.
Yeah. Now, Ked, I guess there's also a visitor that is on campus. Maybe you can tell Illini fans a little bit about this individual and maybe pique the interest of a few Illini fans who are thinking of the future.
Well, Illinois is hosting a Frenchman on campus. His name is Jonah Beafule, I guess. I hope I said that right. He's a 6'9", 6'10" power forward. And Illinois assistant basketball coach Jeff Alexander is the lead recruiter for him. There's a lot of high major schools that are involved with him. Illinois has done an extremely good job of going overseas and getting players. And according to a source yesterday, Jeff has done a remarkable job, and he's becoming a known factor overseas. He's a really, really good shooter, a good passer. Not overly athletic, but he's just fits Illinois' style of offense right now. I think I know they're going to try to push for a commitment today. Don't know if that's going to happen, but he is on campus right now, and he got there yesterday, but he's watching this game right now as we speak. So another big time prospect on campus. It would be nice to kind of get him started, for next year, and to get him on campus as well to be an Illini.
Brad, any thoughts there?
Yeah, I mean, he's a kid who has a ton of talent. Talking sounds like it's
And Brad has left the building here for a second there.
Yeah.
Ked, how important is it when you watch Jacusiones, going with 6 games, 20 plus or more, setting a new Illinois record for freshmen, and going after the last Big Ten player to do that as a freshman was Eric Gordon, that Illinois fans remember quite well, and he was a freshman in Indiana and did 7 games in a row. How important is this? Are there players and coaches and organizations in Europe that are watching the Illini games and thinking that I could play there too?
That's what they're selling, all their recruits on. They're selling Jonas on the same thing. Look what Ibisic is doing. They're highlighting him, and then you see Kasparis' numbers. The thing, I guess, that you want to remember, I guess, what fans want to know, to answer your first question about Jacusiones, is that he only has 7 points right now. I think getting 20 today might be tough, given the score is 60 to 24. I don't want to say it was hurting him, but when you talk national guys, like national prominent top freshmen or All-Americans in the country, when you watch a different game other than Illinois, you don't really typically see KJ on there unless Illinois is playing. And I think that's partly due to, Illinois needs to move up the ladder. But then people are probably saying, I think Northwestern 7-5. Well, those two guys, from Rutgers, Bailey, those guys, they came in with high, accolades. So having said that, it would be nice to see KJ break some national records so that way he could get more national exposure, because he deserves it. He really and truly does. So right now, he's played 14 minutes. He's got 7 points, 3 of 5 shooting. I would like to see that streak continue. Even if it's to let him get his 20 points and they take him out, I don't care. This is a practice game to work on things. And if it needs to keep that streak going, Brad Underwood's a player's coach. Let him ride it.
Sturdy.
Yeah, sorry. Did I miss out on the French guy? Did mine go through? I was talking about the French guy.
You kind of missed out a little bit on the French guy, and then we talked about the importance of how the 2 Illini Europeans are playing for recruiting purposes. Yeah,
no, I would say the one thing about Jonas, I actually talked to a European scout today about him. Guys watched him play over the years. At about 2:30 because of different times on this kid's talented. He's got a lot of skills. He'll be a really good player. Very high on him, the way he competed against actually in that Adidas Nations tournament, as well as on the all-tournament team. So he likes Jonas a lot, 6'10", 225, really skilled, can shoot floor the other 3 main comps. I don't know. He probably likes baguettes and ice. We know that, but yeah, that's about it. So 18 in January, and you mentioned the European guys. I think it's really cool if he can keep that going with the 20-point game, because it creates that national notoriety. So it's interesting to see what they do. Bigger fish don't want anything to happen there, but maybe he comes out and he's a little more aggressive early in the second half, gets a couple shots off, and and gets to that 20-point mark, and then you can get him out and let those other guys get some PT.
Yeah, that was a little in and out there, folks, with Brad on a cell phone. But we're looking to see if we can get Kasparis some time. We can see former Illini Marcus Griffin, from the Peoria connection is watching today. We will have him on for a future halftime, by the way, folks. So you'll be able to see him come on and talk with Ked and Brad and I. I also thought one of the things I was listening to, and I don't know if you listen to this podcast, Ked, but there is a podcast out there, a basketball podcast that is really good. And they were talking about the importance of just going out and trying to play and not focusing on, let's say, shooting, but just focusing on, playing well and playing all around. And I was thinking that Ben could certainly use that, where he's not worried about making shots, but he's just more worried about getting out there. And I noticed today, he's got a couple rebounds. He had a nice assist in 10 minutes, and that's got to be good for his confidence out there.
If I had to pick two guys, fellas, that I really want to see highlighted today, giving this game, Ben Humrickhouse is number one, and Will Riley. I don't care if Ben Humrickhouse has to go to booty ball. I don't care if he gets up 25 shots. You got to find a way to get his confidence. It's time. Will Riley went to that little freshman stage. He hit a three early. To me, both of those players right now are the missing piece, if you want to call it that. That's the way I see it. They need some point production from that area. Now, I do think Will Riley, which we talked about, if he may not be giving you 15, 20 points, he's giving 8 or 9, 5, 6 rebounds. But somehow they need to find a way to get some point production. So if it's feed them in the post, let them get shots, that's an important piece of the offense I really, really want to see them highlight.
Yes, and the name of that podcast, for those who enjoy basketball and you want to hear it from a coach's standpoint, is a podcast called Slappin' Glass. And these guys just basically bring on college coaches, and they talk about that and talk about practices, talk about different things. And one of the things they talked about was, if you can get a guy focusing on other things in practice, it's amazing how well they start shooting, because they're worried about their ball handling, or they're worried about this or that or the other thing. And then what they're really got concerns on that's causing them a lot of heartache, they don't think about as much. Sturdy, you got anything if you're in range here?
Yeah, no, I think that was interesting. It's an interesting point. I mean, it's one of those things we've talked about a lot. Like, when you miss free throws, do you practice, take 500 free throws the next practice, or do you just not shoot any free throws and just not think about it? It's like there's two sides to that coin, right? And you're trying to figure out what's the best way to fit. And I think that's where you just have to find. I agree with Chad completely. I think Riley and Ivasic are the two, or Riley and Humrickhouse are guys that they really need to get involved, to get them confidence, because they're going to need those guys to make shots and do some things in the Big Ten.
Totally agree with you. Now, Kenny McCoy, listening, watching, talks about he likes the high-low between Ivasic and Morez, and of course, this podcast is where that was born, because we were the ones whining and complaining about it more often than anybody else.
Yep.
So we're going to take total credit for that. At some point, you're going to have to. One of you guys is going to have to ask Brad about how influential we are when we whine and complain.
Well, it is nice
I'll text him later. We'll see.
Kid?
Well, it is nice to see. I like the aggressiveness, with Morez, and he's getting better and better. Just every game. It's the little things that he does. There was a rebound that he tipped out. I think it was Will Riley who may have grabbed it. It's just interesting. I mean, they had a lineup with Will Riley, Ivasic, and Morez in the game at the same time. We talked about this length. I'm not saying that it hasn't happened, but it was really noticeable on the court today, having guys like that. And you're right, Brad, you stated earlier, Chicago State's really falling off, and that's just the nature of the beast. If you don't reload, I guess if you will, you're going to struggle like that. But it's just different. I mean, I hope the second half to see, like I mentioned, those two guys with, probably the brain cramp here. With Will Riley and Ben Humrickhouse to do well, and if anything else. Also, I should say this too. I like to see Kylan Boswell continue to knock down some shots, because you go to Oregon. I think right now Oregon, and I said this in the last podcast, so I'm not going to renege that. I think from just looking at the eye test, they seem to be the team to beat. If I had to say the conference started today, they would be number one. And Illinois gets them at the perfect time, because their student section is gone, and it's a time for them to go out there. If they can pull a win out, that'd be great, but they're going to need some other scoring, like Brad and I just mentioned, from that fourth spot.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, it's interesting, because you sit back and you look at some of the things going on around college basketball, and this Illinois team is doing what they need to do, and then we're going to run out of here. But Georgia's down 41-24 to South Carolina State. So, folks, there's no guarantee with college kids that things are going to go exactly as planned, and you see Illinois out there executing a plan very well. Brad, real quick before we cut out here.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how they mix the minutes here in the second half, and we'll talk more after the game.
All right, we will be on live right after the game, folks. Thank you very much. Go Illini.